All right. How's everybody doing? Hopefully, everybody's doing well in these uncertain times. And Ryan and I are really, really thrilled to be with you today. I'm coming you from straight from sunny Florida. And Ryan, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm coming from very much not so sunny Ireland. So we're in the north of Ireland and it is very cold and very, very grey.
Yeah. So a lot of you have posted some information and some topics that you wanted Ryan and I to discuss, kind of live here in person. And we're going to go ahead and jump right in and get to the first question that was posed to us. And someone from marketing, her name is Dina. She's kind of hopped off the call, so to speak, but she's been collaborating on the back end and kind of coming up with some questions that you all had posed either on Twitter or you reached out maybe via support. And the first one, I'm just going to jump right into this, is how can I make a quick number line graph for inequalities with one variable? So in thinking this through, one thing that hopefully you all are aware of is that you should hopefully have access to Equatio through MathSpace. At least we hope, because I'm going to show how to use Equatio MathSpace to do this particular example. So the first thing I'm going to go to is open a Google Chrome tab, and I'm going to go into my Equatio dashboard. And the reason why I have chosen this method is because this offers students a lot of flexibility and choice. And one of the things that I think is really important in a digital and one-to-one, even a remote learning environment, is the ability for students to be able to create math and STEM items on their own. So as you can see in my Equatio dashboard, we have lots and lots of different things, at least in my dashboard, because I use this quite frequently for demos and ways that students can create and share math spaces. And we have some videos. If you'd like to reach out after the fact, we can certainly help you if you want to know more about MathSpace and the dashboard. And this particular example, again, is how can I make a quick number line graph for inequalities with one variable? So the operative word, or the word that stood out for me here, was quick. And right now, we have a way. I don't know if it's going to be a quick way, but we have a way, and I'd love to show it to you here. So this is an example of a number line, and I already started to build this out for you. Just because we only have half an hour today. So what I decided to do is to go and open a new space. And when I went to equatio.texthelp.com, if you've never been there before, you will get an authentication window to show that you are authenticated on our end to be able to get into MathSpace. And I clicked on New Space. When I opened the new space, I went to my instructional design part of my brain and I said, how am I going to get my students or me as a teacher, how am I going to create a quick number line graph, which is what the question was. So the best way to do this, in my opinion, is to go down to Smart Shapes, and I'm going to select a number line. So I'm going to show real quick kind of how I did this. So I drew a number line. I'm excited to tell you all that we have lots of things in the works in terms of development, and Ryan would be more, be able to speak more directly about those, but I can certainly answer some questions. But he's more on the development side and I'm more on the product management side. So I work more closely with customers and bring some of your all suggestions to development. So one of the things we have kind of in the works is we're going to hopefully be able to roll this out at some point here in the near future, is when you make a number line, we're going to be able to put numbers on that number line for you. Right now, it's not a quick way of doing it. So that's why that quick stood out to me. So what I did here is I inserted the number 1. How did I do that? I went to my equation editor, I hit 1, and I went and I inserted that into my MathSpace. And I was forced, so to speak, to drag that and start making my own number line. Obviously, that's not a very quick way of doing things. Development recognizes that. And like I said, we're coming up with a solution right now to fix that. So I just wanted to show you very quickly how I did that. Now, excuse me, when I look at this number line, I made these numbers. And then what I did is I needed to place a dot on the number line. So the way I did this was I went to Shapes and I went to a circle, and then I just drew a very small circle. Now, from a developer standpoint or from a teacher standpoint, the default is going to be for this to turn red. And I need to change that color because I want it to match the color of my number line. So I selected the object. I went to the change fill color, and then I went to black and I went to change that. Now, if you don't want to fill it, because the question actually was about inequalities, and the thing to know about inequalities is you might have an open circle or a closed circle, and you have to decide which one you want. So if you want to leave it open, then you could just go to the color of white, and I can drag those circles. So maybe what I should do is go here and select white, and that way this is an open circle. So if you were doing greater than or less than or equal to, you'd have the ability to change the dot. And then what I decided to do was I went to my shapes and I went to more shapes and I searched for an arrow. And I chose thin. I didn't want it to be too thick, so I went to arrow. You also have arrow right, arrow left. So depending on which way you want your inequality to go, notice how nice that arrow is. If you make a mistake, you can always go here and turn that arrow the other way if you need to, or you could delete and go back and readjust. So a couple different ways you can make your arrows either going left or going right. Hopefully that helps you with graphing inequalities in one variable. You guys, whoever asked this question, mentioned a number line. I did see some feedback in Twitter that people talked about using the graph editor and showing the inequalities on Desmos graph editor. But you asked for a number line, so I didn't think you asking necessarily for a plane. So that's why I went the MathSpace route and created those shapes for you. So hopefully that helps. And I guess I can kind of be the moderator here. Ryan, if you want to jump in and take this next one. The next question here is, Ryan, is there a way or could there be a way for students to submit a drawing as an assignment? And it mentions using a touch screen to draw right on the screen. And it says this would be great for the elementary teachers to see if students are working out math problems correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the minute, we have a number of ways of getting drawing experiences into Equatio and submitting things in assignment. I think it's probably more important as well at the minute where students are at home, they've got their own devices, they've got iPads with touchscreens, phones, touchscreens, and possibly even Chromebooks as well with touchscreens. So one of the ways you can get drawing into Equatio is again to use MathSpace. So at the minute, I've got shapes on my screen here. And what we have is a freehand drawing tool in MathSpace. So you could share this space with your students. Students would open this up, see all the work or template that you've created, and then click or press, I should say, with their touchscreen device on the freehand drawing tool. And they can then draw over the top of the shapes like so. And you could, have an activity where they create fractions out of the shapes. You can then manipulate all these drawings as well. So I can go back to the select tool, move that about, remove a couple of those, change them. And, maybe you want to be a little bit more neat about it as well, rather than the freehand lines. You can tap on line, draw some diagonals across the way. At the moment, MathSpace only works on desktop browsers, so it does work across Safari, Firefox, Chrome, and Edge. But everybody should be happy enough to hear that we're expanding that list to support iPads and touchscreen devices. So obviously, especially in elementary, iPads are huge, and at home as well. Students have iPads around the house, Androids around the house. So we're going to try and bring all that experience into MathSpace as well. Now, in addition to that, it's kind of hard for me to demo it through YouTube like this. But we also have a Equatio mobile experience too, which allows students to use their mobile device, and they can be in MathSpace or on Google Apps or on Google Docs, and then they could just draw like they usually do on a piece of paper. They can snap a photo of it and then send it straight up to MathSpace, or they can also draw on their device as well, just the same way as we've done here in MathSpace too. Perfect.
All right. So question number 3 here. So hopefully you guys were good to go with that answer there. So Ryan was showing how to use that freehand tool. If there's anything, and further that you want on that question, just like I said, you feel free to reach out to us and we'd be glad to do something separate if that didn't really meet your needs. But there are lots of different ways to use freehand tools and drawing figures inside of MathSpace. So that's awesome, Ryan. Appreciate you showing that. Hey, Google, please put an equation editor in Google Forms to help out the math teachers. So having to type each question, take a snip of it, import them as pictures takes quite a bit of time. So I am going to share my screen again here, and I want to show you all perfect. So you guys can see that. So what I did is I decided to show and just kind of pull up just a random Google form that I have that I often show during demos. Now, some people get confused and they say, well, I have the Free for Teacher license. I have Equatio installed. How can I utilize this with my students? So for students to be able to use Equatio inside of Google Forms, they also must have the extension installed. So as you can see up here, as I hover over, all students and teachers need to have this installed. And notice I just picked something simple here. Hopefully it's simple. I don't know, the vast variety of people that might be on this call might have different math abilities. So I tried to keep this as just doing one-step equations. So I love this about Google Forms. And the thing that I love the most is the ability to click on the pupil up here and to see what a student would see. So when I look at this from the student perspective, it allows me to see these images really clear and they're vivid. And this is your Equatio icon where students could submit answers using forms. So when I click up here, and students might make this mistake, they're in a form and they can use our screenshot reader or they can turn on the discoverability features. But really, in order to access and for students to respond to forms, and why would we want to assess students in forms? Well, think of formative assessments. We can use it for summative assessments. And the great thing is all of our input methods work inside of forms. So how did I build this quiz? Let's start with that. So one thing that I did is, as a teacher or as an instructor, I went into this question and I asked myself, how do I start from scratch? How do I get started in making math into a form? So one thing that I might want to do and pay close attention to is provide, let's say, my written instructions here. So maybe I probably should have said solve for X and put like a colon here. And then what I would do to make the image is I would come over here and click on Insert Math. And when I do that, that will allow the Equatio toolbar to show at the bottom, and you have access to all the different things mentioned. Ryan even mentioned the last example about Equatio Mobile. So mobile can be used in forms. So students could actually write out their answers on paper and submit the answer using Equatio Mobile. You can also insert math spaces right into forms. So I'm just going to solve this, though, and show this from the teacher perspective and then show how I might solve this as a student. So I'm going to see here that I have an example, and I've provided an opportunity for students to respond in a short answer format. You may, as a teacher, and if you're familiar with forms, which you probably are, you might make sure that that's toggled to the required feature. And then, of course, the other great thing is you can turn this into a scored quiz. So I can use the answer key and notice how I can put Equatio images in as my answer key. I still would, caution teachers to make sure if they dump the answers and the responses into a Google Sheet, especially if it's something like this or a two-step equation and there's multiple answers coming in for each line, that you double check the scoring of this when Equatio images are inserted into these forms. But that's great that we can access Equatio within the answer key as well. So this particular example, I'm just going to start, actually probably best to start a brand new question because it's obviously easy to see these that I already have them built. But what does a new question look like in this particular form? So I'm going to start here and type in instructions for students. I've had a lot of people write to me, and actually you're talking to the person. Some of you've probably filled this out before. So when it says send feedback, that actually comes to me, Louis. And then sometimes it's so complex, I have to reach out to Ryan. So we're both on the call. But normally the feedback is checked by me. And if it's something I can answer and it's something that you want help with, I can help you here. If it is troublesome or it's a support ticket, that usually goes to support@texthelp.com. But if you're looking for just general feedback and things that you want our product to do, feel free to reach out and put this in. One of the things that I see people often submit feedback on is forms. It's probably one of the most common things that people ask questions about when they do reach out to me. And a lot of times people want to put the image up in this blank. And unfortunately, that can't be done. So I want you to think of this item here as being something that you provide the instructions to, and then when you click here, the image will go underneath those instructions. So now that I already have the toolbar open, I can then use any of the input methods that I want. So I can use my LaTeX, I can put a graph in. So if I want, notice up here, I have a graph put in here so students can identify the slope of the line. So I can use the handwriting tool, the speech recognition, mobile, which we talked about in MathSpace. So all sorts of input methods for teachers to create the math questions as well as students to respond to those. So what if I just do something very basic such as x minus, and we'll do this this way, just something simple, x minus 8 equals 32. Notice that it transcribed my handwriting, which isn't very great, turned it into digital math, and I can then insert this into the question. So you'll get that quick box there that says it's making the math. And then I can leave this short answer, or I can use any of the Google Form answer choices that are given. So really great that I can easily insert math right into forms. I honestly don't know of another product that can do this. And that's why people, rave and talk about how much they love our product within forms, because they can assess students during especially remote learning times. So let's take a look at this then from the student perspective. So just checking the time here. So we have x plus 16 equals negative 34. So as a student, how do I answer that question? They're going to you're going to send them the link to the form, and then they're going to go in and have the ability, provided that the Chrome extension is installed, to be able to go in and answer this question. So I can then go in here and say x plus, if I want my students to repeat this, I can. So negative 34, equals negative 34. And one thing, I know Ryan's going to show this, is you can do Control-Shift-Enter right here. So this will copy the first line down to the second line. And I can easily then just change this if I want to and say, I'm going to subtract now 16 on both sides. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do minus a negative 16. Of course, if you're subtracting 16 on both sides, that's going to eliminate here. You may or may not be aware we changed the UI recently back in December. So I can now strike this through. I could actually have highlighted everything and use the strike through command. But obviously I have a negative 34, a negative and a negative makes a positive 16. So I might want to just delete this and change this to plus. And then this way I get x equals negative 18. And I can use any of these alignment features here. So I can center the math, I can left adjust it, I can right adjust it. However you want your math to appear, you'll probably coach your students how you want it, and they can then insert that math. So really awesome features within Google Forms. And then students can then submit their answers once they're done solving all these. So while the question here was, hey, Google, can you put an equation editor into Forms? Google so far has not done that, but we have. So why do you need Google when you have Text Help, right? So we're here to hopefully help you guys make math and STEM digital within Forms, and hope you'll continue to use this integration, because we absolutely think it's wonderful, and teachers love this integration. So the next one, we're going to kick over to Ryan, and it talks about what are some creative ways that math teachers are having students turn in work.
Yeah, thanks, Lou. So At this present time, math teachers are having to be very creative with the ways that they get students to turn into work. And thankfully with Equatio, we've got a whole range of different input methods, different platforms, different ways the students can return work into the teachers. But what I'm going to talk about today is one that people sometimes aren't really aware of. And I think it's a really, really great way to take your existing materials, share it out to your students, and then get the response back again. And that's with using TextHelp's PDF reader in conjunction with Equatio to take worksheets that you probably already have either on paper or downloaded from the internet or something you've put together maybe yourself as well. So you can go to the Chrome Web Store and type in TextHelp PDF reader. We'll share a link right now afterwards, I would imagine, or in the comments. And if you can install that from the Chrome Web Store, once you do that, it should be available through Google Drive for you to open your PDFs. So I've got an example worksheet here stored in my Google Drive from the website Math is Fun. Now, I should say as well, before I open this, I am not the math teacher. Louis is the math teacher here. I am the developer, which makes the math happen. So you're probably going to see me try to solve some equations here very badly, so you're just going to have to forgive me. So what we can do here is we can open with Read and Write for Google Chrome or the TextHelp PDF reader. And that will open up my PDF. Oh, the internet connection is a little bit slow at the minute. Okay, so let's open up my Math is Fun worksheet. At the top here, we've got all the TextHelp accessibility tools. We've got our text-to-speech, we've got our dictionary and things like that there. But what you can do is whenever you have the Equatio installed from the Chrome Web Store, you can actually click on the Equatio icon in the top right here. And that will drop the Equatio toolbar inside your PDF. So as a student, you can share the PDF with your students. Your students, once they have the Chrome extension installed, can click on that little Equatio icon and they get that exact same experience that they got everywhere else, whether it's in Google Apps or whether it's in PDF or if it's in MathSpace, the toolbar is always the same. They get the same tools, so familiar UI. And what we're going to do here is I am going to attempt to try and solve some of these problems on this worksheet. So if we take the first one, for example, what we can actually do is use the screenshot reader. So if your student has any issues with the legibility of the PDF, or maybe students prefer to hear the equations being read aloud, they can use our inbuilt screenshot reader. Click on this button, draw a little box around the piece of math. And what that will do, will capture the math and transform it into speech. And then they can hear that audio then coming back through their speakers. So in order to solve the equation then, your student can click on the more options and then edit with Equatio. And that will bring that question into the Equatio toolbar for them to solve. So as Lily mentioned earlier on, one of my favorite keyboard shortcuts is the Control-Shift-Enter to fill down a line. So if you're showing you're working as a student, you can then take the first line, go on to the next line, and then manipulate the equation as you solve it. So we change that to 1 brackets, and to the next line for 12 plus 8. And fill down again and replace that with hopefully the correct answer. And as Louis showed you before as well, you get those exact same tools in here. So we've got the align center, align right. Once I've got my answer, I click on insert math, and that drops the solves equation right into the PDF. And what that does, it then becomes part of that PDF. So that's your solution to the problem. And you as the teacher, and the person who shared it with the student, you can see that solution inside the shared PDF. So you get that piece of feedback then straight back into your Google Drive. You don't have to go anywhere else to get it. Another thing you can do as well is use our color tools, text color tools, to have the equation in a different color. So you can see which one is the question, which one is the answer. So it's very similar to handing out a worksheet in class. You hand out multiple copies of the worksheet, students write in the answer in the little area. It's that it's that traditional feedback loop that you usually get, but instead we're working solely digitally now, which I think it's great. So that's the math portion of the PDF. Obviously, with TextHelp's PDF reader as well, you get those additional markup tools as well. So whenever the student gives this back to you as the teacher, you can go in and use our freehand drawing tools. Let me change the color here and make it a little bit more obvious. And you can then just type or draw in the document and say, yeah, that's great. Or you can use our typewriter tool to put in some feedback. Store that, and that again becomes part of the PDF to do the whole submission flow all back again. And there's even a little space up there that I can put my name in as a student. So I click in there. Again, this is a great way if you have existing materials to get those existing materials out to students, have them answer it in a way that they're familiar with, but something that allows them to work digitally through all the Google Drive apps.
Yeah, that's awesome, Ryan. And Ryan, whether he knows this or not, I know he doesn't give himself enough credit for being a teacher, but he is a good teacher, and he's taught me many things since I've joined TextHelp. But Ryan may or may not know this, but like lots of textbook publishers still using PDFs, and that's why he thought it was so imperative to go this PDF route for you. So really, really awesome example of how to use the PDF reader because so many textbook publishers are using PDFs, and that's what teachers have readily available to them. So that's really, really awesome that you were able to show that. So last thing here that I have is how students can show their work remotely. And this is going to allow me to show MathSpace one more time. So I pulled up an example here. And a lot of people, mistakenly, I think, say that our product is really only for upper level math. I have a first grade son, he's only 7, and he's learning how to tell time. So we have, scenarios where kids could work on telling time. I used to teach 5th grade as well. So I'm going to pull up a 5th grade example, thinking that maybe we have some elementary people maybe on the call that might like to see this. So I just created some just regular geometric figures here, and I said, hey, let's have students practice with finding volume. So one thing that's really awesome about MathSpace is, can teachers create items inside of MathSpace and then share them with students? And the answer simply is yes. It's one of my favorite things about Equatio, to be honest with you, and that is the ability to go up here, click the share button, and then I can make a copy and expect a response. And this is really, really important. Like, how are people sharing these MathSpaces, and how are they doing it in a creative way? So actually was the question Ryan just answered. So I can click make a copy and expect a response. And what Equatio will do is it'll create a unique URL for students. Now, the interesting thing is teachers, especially given this time, are sharing things with students in a number of different ways. So they can share it through Google Classroom. They can share it through a learning management system. We don't care at TextHelp how you share the link. We just need to make sure the link is created. And then however you guys want to share this, it's up to you. So what we can do is copy this to the clipboard. I'm then going to go to another user account, a different Google account, guys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this in and show you what this looks like then from the teacher perspective. So what does the teacher see? I'm sorry, what does the student see? So I just showed you how the teacher can share this. What does the student see when they open it? So notice up here, I now no longer have a share button. I have a submit button because the student now needs to do the work, right? So the student can come down here and use any of these creation tools that we've provided in the Equatio toolbar, and the teacher can receive this assignment digitally. So just from a time stake, and I think I have 1 minute left, which is no time at all to show this. I'm going to put hi, and which is not math, obviously, and I'm going to submit this. Now, the student at home, working from home, is going to obviously use their math skills and what they've taught or been taught remotely, and they're going to annotate and use some of those tools that Ryan's shown, especially freehand drawing or your equation editor. And now you might be wondering, well, how does the teacher then get that assignment? Well, the teacher, when they go back to their Equatio dashboard, I went back to my teacher dashboard now here, everybody, and I went to my assignments tab. When I go to my assignments tab, look what I have. I have one person turn this in, and that person would be me. So there it is. It's time stamped. It's got the date, the time, and here's the best part. Ryan talked about providing on-the-spot feedback. I can also open this from the teacher end. I'm in the feedback view, and I can go in then and use some of those same text tools that Ryan just showed actually and say, please redo this assignment. And I'm going to insert this into this assignment for the student to see. And I'm going to put that right there. Again, I might want to change the color. I like how Ryan showed that. I can put that in red, the notorious red pen that the teacher uses, right? And then I could go over here and I can send that back to the student. So really, really great ways that we can use Equatio for remote learning. And I'd be more than happy, maybe Dina can put it in the chat to put you on the spot, Dina, but we can put or include a MathSpace link, or if you want to reach out to us, a lot of you found us on Twitter anyway, I'd be more than happy to give you a YouTube video, a more thorough video on how to use MathSpace for remote learning. So we really appreciate your time today. Ryan, I appreciate you joining me. This has been fun. We hope that
it's been fun for me as well.
Yeah, it's really great to be able to talk to the users of our product, and we can't wait to hear some of the feedback that you might have either through Twitter, and feel free. Ryan and I are really, really anxious to hear if you guys want us to continue doing this. We'd love to continue this from a week-to-week basis, and we encourage you to use the hashtag #ExploreEquatio if you have things that come up between now and next Monday. So from sunny Florida and from
not so sunny Ireland.
Yeah, not so sunny Ireland. We thank you for your time today, and we hope you have a great week of remote learning with your students. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.